All right, we're going to continue on with this question. So it says, circle the ordered pairs that are a solution to the equation. I just corrected the English mid-reading. Okay, how could I decide if this is a solution or not? There's actually a couple different ways I could do that. What would be an easy way to figure out if that's a solution or not? What would you do? If I plug in, I know my x is 0, so if I plug in x is 0, I could see what my y is. So if I plug in x is 0, I literally get 0 plus 2y equals 6. 2y equals 6. And then what would y equal? Y equals 3. So that is not a solution because it has a negative. Okay? If I wanted to, I could plug in both points. I could plug in the 4 and the negative 1. So I could start with 4 plus 2 times negative 1. Is it equal to 6? You see what I did there? I just plugged in x and y to see if it would work. 4 minus 2 equals 6. Is that true? Is 2 equal to 6? No. So that one is also not a solution. Now we could try negative 6 and 0. So if I go and I plug them both in, I could say negative 6 plus 2 times 0, is that equal to 6? Is negative 6 equal to 6? Also no, so that's not a solution. And then we could try 10. 10 plus 2 times negative 2 is equal to 6. 10 minus 4 equals 6. Will that work out? 6 equals 6 is true, so that one is a solution. Determine the vertical intercepts of the graph. Now, when it says vertical intercept, what is vertical also code word for it? Can anyone think of? It's going to also be the y-intercept. So vertical intercept is code word for y-intercept. And how do you find the y-intercept? You set x equal to 0. And by the way, this is a little sneak preview. The y-axis, if it committed a crime, it would have an alias. The alias for the y-axis is, by the way, x equals 0. All along the y-axis, x is equal to 0. Okay, so that's the equation of the y-axis. That's the reason why we set x equal to 0. If I set x equal to 0, I get 0 plus 2y equals 6. And we already just solved that over here. Y equals 3. So what's that as an ordered pair, the vertical intercept? Put it together for me. What order would it go in? 0, 3. Is that the same thing as 3, 0? No. 0, 3 lives on the y-axis. It's right here. 0, 3. That's plotted and labeled. Okay? Next one, determine the horizontal intercept. What's the horizontal intercept also code word for? What's another name for the horizontal intercept? X, yes, or the x-intercept. X-intercept. And that's because, and to do that, we would set y equal to 0. The y equals 0 is the equation for the x-axis. So if I set y equal to 0, I have x plus 2 times 0 equals 6. And what is x equal to? 6. Okay, put it together in an ordered pair for me. 6, 0. Is that the same thing as 0, 6? No. So 6, 0, we start at the origin, we go over to 6, I go up and down 0. So this point right here, 6, 0. And then we also have 10, negative 2. 10, negative 2 is over to 10, 8, 9, 10. Negative 2, that's down here. So that could be our third point, 10, negative 2, since we already checked it and we know it works. And then from here, we connect the dots. So I get my ruler out. I have 3 points. I connect the dots. The reason why it's important to have 3 points is if you mess up one of the points, which is really easy to do, especially when it comes to negatives, then you will have your whole situation wrong. So it's always good to have a third point as a checkpoint. Now, if I wanted to put this in my calculator, how could I get y by itself? What would I do to solve for y? If I wanted to solve for y, what could I do to get y by itself and check it in my calculator? I could start with subtract x from both sides, so I get 2y equals negative x plus 6. What would I do next? Divide by 2, right? Everything gets divided by 2. Y equals negative 1/2 x plus 3. This is the same exact equation, just written in a different form. When we get y by itself, later on we're going to learn that this form is actually called the slope y-intercept. Has anyone ever heard of that? Y equals mx plus b form? Anyway, in order to graph it on the calculator like I was showing you, you would actually have to have it in this form because we have to have y by itself in order to punch it into the calculator. Do you remember that? Okay, great. Okay, let's graph two more examples here. So for example 2, it says graph y equals 2x. The easiest thing to do is to start with our table, x and y, and I could start plugging in values for x. Usually we want to be right around the origin, and if it's not a fraction, I would suggest just doing things like -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. The reason why we use these values for x is because that gives me -2, 1, 0, 1, 2. It gives me all the x values close to the origin. If I plug in -2 for x, what's 2 times -2? -4. What's 2 times -1? -2, right? What's 0 times 2? What's 1 times 2? What's 2 times 2? And this gives us a table of values now. We can plot these ordered pairs. -2, -4. I go over to -2, down to -4. There's the point, -4. And then if I have -1, -2, I go over to -1, down to -2. -1, -2. 0, 0, there's the origin. So that's actually an x and y intercept. And then 1, 2, oops, over 1, up 2. I could even mess up. 1, 2, and over 2, up 4. 2, 4. If I had messed up on that point and I went to draw my line, I would probably notice it because it wouldn't follow in that same linear pattern. So once I have my points plotted, I can draw my line. I might even label this as y equals 2x. And then what about this one, y equals 2? If I were to create a table of values, and I'm going to just do it vertically here, oops, x, y. If I were to make up some values for x, -1, -2, oops, I was going to go in order. If I plug in -1, there's no place to plug it in. So this is the situation where the question is different, but the answer is always 2. So what's the ordered pair with -1? And -2? And 0? And 1? And 2? So the point is, doesn't matter what the x is because there's no variable x there. Y is always 2. And if I plot these points, I could go over to -2, up to 2. Over to -1, up to 2. 0, 2. 1, 2. You see, what happens if y is equal to 2? What kind of line is that? Yeah, y equals 2 is a horizontal line. And just like I had said earlier, when y is 0, that's the x-axis. Well, y is 2, is just a vertical or a horizontal line up 2 from the x-axis. So that means every single horizontal line, what do you think this line right here is called? Yes. What do you think this line is called? And the x-axis is y equals 0. So every single horizontal line is always going to be y equals the number. There's no variable x. You don't have to plug in any number for x, but we're saying that y is always equal to that number.